Last time we discussed about content fragment, experience fragment and all, and before that we were discussing about components. So in the components there were few things left, which was one thing that you said of how manipulation or how showing and hiding can be done inside a HUI dialog. So I did some code and I can show you that now. So if I configure this component here, you can see what I did is I added this checkbox. And if you have this checkbox selected, let me just maximize it. If you have this checkbox selected, then only the first name and the last name will be displayed. And in case if you unselect this checkbox, you can see those are getting hidden. Both the first name and last name. So on the basis of this checkbox, we are doing some manipulation, showing and hiding of field of the two fields, that is first name and last name. So how we achieved this is, let me go to the code and show it to you. Okay. So here what we did is I used the same client library that we discussed last time, that is a sample client lib. And inside our remote control, that was js.txt, I loaded my showHide.js. Okay. Now, what exactly I am doing inside my showHide.js? Let me just open this. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm doing is that I'm loading this. I'm writing this JS, and I said $document on foundation content loaded. So what it will do, it will trigger an event. So on dialog load, this event will be triggered and it will perform this function. So when our dialog will be loaded, after that only this function will be executed. So on dialog load, we get the dialog element, and from dialog, I check if the dialog is being properly loaded. If it has a length, then I said till the time all the fields of the dialog gets loaded, like I use this out of box method, that is Coral Commons ready. Till the time this dialog element is fully loaded, then only you execute this init method. Like I just named it init. I said that execute this init method and pass this dialog element. Okay. So I just said that once the dialog gets ready, like all the fields inside the dialog gets ready, then only trigger this init method. Now what I'm doing inside this init method is I got the dialog. Now I'm using just simple jQuery. I created this field variable which is of type list, and within the dialog I tried to find an element or an HTML element where this name is checkbox. So if I go over here, if I inspect over here and show it to you, so here I found it by using this input where name is checkbox. So by using this attribute with its value, I found this element. So this checkbox element will be over here input. Okay, so this is what this is what I found. Name is equal to checkbox.
So you gave the name property, right? To the
name property, because name is unique. Like every property would have a name. Like here this is a checkbox, so it has its name. Of course, all the fields inside the dialog would have unique name. So that is why what I did is, the best thing is that I found the element on the basis of its unique name. So by using this, I found it over here. Okay. And in the same way, I found the first name and the last name. First name and the last name. So now if I go over here, if I close this, sorry, not this, but if I close this, yeah, checkbox, yeah. And if I go over here, yeah, you can see Coral form field wrapper. Always see, if you would see the HTML, you would see all our fields inside our dialog are being surrounded by this particular class, that is div class Coral form field wrapper. Like if I open this, you would see this is my first name. If I close this and open the next one, see this is my last name. If I close this, if I go open, and this is my age field. So all our fields in our Coral 3. Okay, so see this dialog creation that we all created, this is basically created by using the language that is Coral 3. So earlier we were on Classic, then we migrated to Coral, but Coral also has its version, Coral 2 and Coral 3. So the latest one is Coral 3. So by default, if you will create the component, it will get created by using the Coral 3 only language. Okay, just remember this thing for just knowledge purpose actually. Okay, so all our fields are being surrounded by this div class by default, like automatically. Here this photo, and it is being surrounded again by the Coral form field wrapper. So what I did is I got this name, I got each and every element by using the name property, and I stored those elements inside this fields list. And then I call this method handle checkbox, so that at the time of page dialog load for the first time, when the dialog will be loaded, so this method will get called. And also I said when this checkbox, a change occurs on this checkbox field. So when this checkbox field is changed, it means it is selected or unselected, then also this handle checkbox method should get called. Now what I'm doing inside this handle checkbox, it's immediate. It's directly below over here. So inside this handle checkbox, what I'm doing is I'm getting the value of my checkbox. Here I got the value. I said if it is not undefined and if it is checked. If the value is checked. If the value is checked, then what I'm doing is I'm calling this method show field and passing the field that I need to be shown. Else I am calling this method hide field. Okay. Now, if I go over here, like I have the show field and I have the hide field. Similarly, I have the hide field. So what I'm doing is I'm passing the element which I need to show or which I need to hide. So I received this element, and what I did is again I did the closest Coral form field wrapper. So this will be a class. If you see, it's a dot. So here what I did is I got the closest this because I got by using name property. So what I did is I got the closest Coral form field wrapper, this thing, and Coral form field wrapper. I got this element and I put that, I checked if the length is okay, if the length is greater than 0, then I perform the function that is shown. Else I will do hide. It is straightforward, nothing more. Okay. Got what I'm doing in this JS?
Yeah.
Simple.
So just one thing at the beginning, that foundation content loaded, also you named the dialog this one, right? Or is this?
No. So this is out of box event.
Oh, okay.
So this event get triggered when the dialogues get loaded or dialogues is opened. And I use this Coral Commons ready. This is used to indicate when all the fields or your you can say your dialogue is fully ready. This is when your dialogue is loaded. It's loading. Then what I'm doing is I'm at least getting the dialogue element, and then I said that once the dialogue will get ready, then get all the fields and perform the operations in it. Okay. Now, the most important question which you should have asked is, we created our client library. There does not make any meaning of loading this client library from inside our HTML because HTML will only be called when your dialog will be saved or when the page will be refreshed.
Yeah.
Okay. So because HTML will only be called that time, like if I refresh this page, then HTML will be called, or if the dialog will be saved, then only HTML will be called. But when I open the dialog or when I close the dialog, when I perform any operation, then this JS will not, then my client library won't get called.
Because you're gonna use it on HTML, right? You have to call it in HTML file, right?
No, if we call it inside HTML, if we call this client library from inside HTML, so if I call this inside HTML, and HTML will only be called when the page will be loaded or the dialog will be saved, then only my HTML will be called. But we need this JavaScript to be called when this dialog is loaded or when this dialog, some operation on this dialog is performed.
Yes.
Okay. So that is why to load this client library, what we have is that inside the dialog, we add a property that is extra client libs. This property is needed, and there this value is the name or the category value of your client library. So this way, this property is pretty important, which tells which client library do you want to load as part of your dialog. Okay, so this is the category value of my client lib. That is, if I go over here, you can see it's over here. And then inside the js.txt, I said show height.txt, and here I did all the manipulations for the dialog.
Okay.
Any
So,
question?
in the dialog, the property that you said, the extra thing, so that's the should be the name of the sample client lib folder, which is the categories, right?
Yeah, so see, my client library is over here, and the categories value is sample word.client lib. So this sample word.client lib should be the part of my extra client lib value. So with extra client lib, we need to tell which client library do you want to load. So if you want to call your client library, you need to name a client library. And this is the name of the client library because this is the name that we gave over here, categories.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, got it. Yeah, I had also this issue actually.
Okay, great.
From the backend, this won't be an issue. I mean, but yeah, when we write the JS from front end, yeah, I didn't know this.
Okay. So if you want to load, mainly the thing is that if you want to load your client library from inside your dialog, you have to use this extra client lib. With respect to dialog, one more thing is left, that is overloading and overriding. Okay. We will discuss about that today. Then we will start with the work. So let's firstly discuss about overriding. Okay. Like we have in Java, we have the overloading, overriding. In the same way, we have it over here. Now, what is overriding, or basically here, yeah, overriding. Let's discuss on that. So like we have the inheritance concept in Java, the same inheritance concept is followed in components inside AEM. Okay, so components also follow the inheritance concept that we have in Java. So like we have this sample word, let me just copy this and let me paste it over here. Okay, just below it. Okay, and let me rename it and say this is child sample word. Okay, so I created this is another component which is child sample word. Okay, let me just give it some proper name. So this is my child sample. Okay, now I have all these things. Let me just delete these things I do not need. Let me just delete it. Okay. Now, and I told you that whatever is the name of the component, the same name should be there inside one of the HTML. So let me name it as child sample word. Okay. So I named it as child sample word. Now, okay, it has its dialog as well. Let me delete this. Okay. So what I did is I created this child sample word component. It only has its HTML. So now how inheritance concept is achieved in components in AEM is here in the component. What we do is we use a property that is sling resource super type. Okay, and the value of this will be the path of the parent component. So this is my parent component. So this path is what I will input over here. And here we establish the parent and child relationship. What I said is that this will now become the parent, that is sample word, and my child sample word. Oh, I think I added it at wrong location there. Let me just delete it, and it should be over here. So over here, what I said is, I added this property sling resource super type and the part to my parent component. Like the way we do in Java, we use the extends and like child class extends parent class. So in the same way, we said this child component extends the parent component. Here we do not use the extends as the keyword, but here we use the sling resource super type to indicate which is its parent component. Okay. Yes, no?
Yeah.
Okay. So here, as of now, we establish the parent-child relationship like we do in Java. So in Java, like if we establish this relationship, we know all the local variables and all the instance variables, not local, but instance variables and all the methods, public methods of the parent class gets automatically inherited into the child class. So in the same way, here everything, here we do not have any public or like those sort of things. So here from the parent component, each and everything of the parent component, each and everything, when I say each and everything, it means each, that means dialog, client lib, and all the HTMLs get inherited into your child component. Now see, here my child component name is child sample word component. Now if I refresh this, okay, and in I will try to see if I can like open or if I can refer the child component here. So if I refer, let me say, okay, so here you can see child sample word component. Let me just paste over here. Okay, let me just put some basic HTML over here. Okay, and let me refresh it back. Yeah, so here you can see this is my child component. Now here, if I open this to configure this dialog, but we do not have the dialog. Here you can see it does not have any dialog. But if I click over here, what it will do is it will open the parents component dialog, because each and everything from the parent component has now been inherited into the child component. Okay, and each and everything, when I said each and everything, it means the client lib as well, the dialog and all the HTML. The same manipulation that we were able to do in the parent, we can now do it inside the child component as well. So this is my child component, and it does not have any dialog. Visually we cannot see any dialog, but this dialog has been inherited from the parent component just by this property sling resource. Okay. Similar way, if you want to from this child sample word, let's say if you want to include any of the HTML. So data, how you use data slide include. Okay. So as we know that the HTMLs are virtually available over here, like the let's say this is a sample word, of course, is virtually available over here. So inside the child sample word, what I can say is that include my sample word -1.html. Okay. It is virtually available. That is why I haven't given the complete path. Otherwise, if this property would not have been there, then I would have given the complete path. That is this whole path. Got my point?
Yes.
Including this. Now, yeah. So here, if I refresh this, you would be able to see the content of, here you can see the content of the sample word 1 HTML as well. Okay. So here, by using this,
it's available, but it won't show till we include it.
That's the same in Java as well. When you inherit any class, all the methods, instance variable are available. It doesn't show how it can show. There's no magic.
Yeah, we need to implement it in our own way. Right?
The same here also, everything is virtually available. You can make the use of it. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, the important thing. So here we establish the parent-child relationship, and we have all the things from the parent available in the child as well. We have the dialogue. We can open the dialogue, but here you see you are not able to recognize. Oh, this is my child sample word dialogue, because the dialogue is completely inherited. So see what wh- how much powerful or power AEM has provided is that you can just copy this complete dialogue over here. Let's say you want to make some modification inside this dialogue. So here I will copy this whole dialogue, and here I have this property, this title as property. So here I will say it's child sample properties. Okay. So this property, this dialogue is there in the parent. Let me do one thing. Let me delete everything below this node. That is child, sorry, this CQ dialogue. I deleted every node below this. What I did is I just kept these three properties because I wanted to update the title, so that an updated title should be shown inside my child component. So if I refresh this and if I open this, so you can see my property has been updated, my title has been updated to child sample property, and still you can see rest all the things are still coming. Here you can see still it is coming, even if I have deleted this, all the child nodes, but still it is inheriting. Okay.
Yeah.
All the nodes, even if they are not there, still it will get inherited from the parent component. And another important thing, it's not only the node that get inherited when I'm talking about dialogue of a component. Okay.
Mhm.
So not only the nodes that get inherited, but it's also the properties that get inherited. So these properties will also get inherited. In case if I know that okay, JC title is something that I need to override, because the value of this I need to change, but rest two properties I am
Mhm.
still able to get from the parent, so I can delete it over here. So since I only wanted to update this property, that is a title, that is why I just provided this title property of this node and update the value of this. So now, even if I do not have any other nodes below it and other properties on this node, then also it won't make any difference, because all those things will still be coming from the parent components dialog.
Mhm.
Now, if I refresh this, and if I go to my component, here you can see still everything is working fine. I
Mhm.
removed that extra cliently property, but still the clientlets are getting loaded. Okay.
Just one thing. I'm not sure if this makes sense or no, but is there any way like to lock the component that we just inherited? I mean,
Is
if
it way to?
to lock it like from any other changes from the parents component.
No, we cannot lock component. The component locking is only done when you have that blueprint live copy thing that we discussed last time.
Mhm.
You remember we discussed in the experience fragment where we have the blueprint and the live copy. There only you can lock, but you cannot lock the component, but you can still lock the page. The whole page will be locked.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
I told you how you can lock the page.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, in the same way, we have this dialog. Since I only needed to update this property, that is the title, that is, I only provided this title property and I updated the value of it over here. Now, consider a scenario. Okay. So now we understood that even if it does not have the child node, it doesn't make any difference inside the dialog. If it doesn't have the child nodes, it doesn't make any difference because it will still be inherited from the parent. Now let us consider another scenario where you have all these nodes like checkbox, first name, these are all coming, hobbies, all these are coming, but like a background till background color. So how are these coming? These are coming from the parent component. Like if I go to the parent, it's coming from here. Let's consider that along with all this property in all these nodes, you also want another node. Like below the BG color, you want another node. Any like some text field. But all these properties, all these fields are coming from the parent component are inherited from the parent component. So see how easy is it that you can copy this. I'm copying this because I deleted this. So I'm copying this and pasting it over here. Now we know. Okay, let me open this. Now see, this is complete over like again over like again doing the same code. Like we have this whole component over there, and now to add and one extra field, we again have to write the same code or redundancy of code, you can say. So now the same nodes and all the things are available here as well. So what is the difference? What is the purpose of making using inheritance? So here, so below items, you have all these nodes and you need an extra node. So see, since all these nodes are already there in the parent, so you do not need these over here. What I can do is I can delete all these, because these are all coming from the parent. Okay, so I'm deleting all these, like, and there is a text field that you need. So here, let me rename this to like new child field. Okay, and this child field is what I added, and let me name it, give it a label as child field, and some value over here as child field. Okay. Now, what I did is of course, you have to create the complete structure in the child component as well, because you need to define where exactly the new field has to be created. And you need to create the complete structure. And here below the items, I had all the nodes, which now I do not need in the child component, because those will automatically be inherited. I just added my node or my field that I newly need inside my child sample word component. Also, this whole structure you have to create, but you do not need the properties of each and every node, because these will be inherited from the parent component. So I'm deleting all these properties. Even if you keep it, it's okay. But still these will be coming from the parent component. So if you take this now and open the child component, and you would see all the things are here. This all is here. Plus below the B color, you have the child field as well.
So all these are like overriding concept, right?
Yeah, over.
Whatever we want to customize for the child component, so we copy it and then we change only that particular thing or add that thing.
Yes. Now let's consider that you have this hobbies or hobbies, or you have this photo, but in the child component, since this is coming from the parent, but in the child component, you do not need this. What you can do is you can create the photo, whatever the node over there, it is photo. Okay, so let me create this photo over here. Let me do one thing. What is the property of this? It is a maintenance structure. Okay. So I will create the same node over here. Create node, it's and photo. So the name should be same, because that way only we will recognize it. Okay. And I will say we'll add sling. There is a property that is sling hide resource. And okay, hide resource. Or okay, so you do not need this actually. What we can do is inside the items only we can add sling hide children, and here it will be a string array, and I can say whatever the name of the field was, it was not photo. Okay. So inside the items, I said sling colon hide children. And it can be a string or it can be a string array. And here you can say which, here you can mention which all child nodes you want to hide or you do not want it to be a part of your component. So I said sling hide children and the items, because photo and all the fields are the child of the items node. Now if I go here, let me refresh it. Okay, and if I open this, you can see the photo field is gone. Okay, in the same way, in this child field, you can see the child field is added, but it is always coming at the bottom. Let's consider that you want to place it above hobbies. So what you can do is, what is the name, node name of hobbies is hobbies. So above this you want it. So what over here, you can go to this child field and you can say sling colon order before and value is hobbies. So what I said is that this child field should start appearing or coming before the hobbies text area inside the dialog. So in this way, you can change the sequence of the fields. So here you can see the child field has started coming above the hobbies.
Okay. It was okay. Yeah. All right.
Okay. Sling order before. We discussed sling hide children. These are out-of-box properties that are provided by AEM through which you can change the look and feel of your child component. Okay. There are few more, like let's consider, okay, so we discussed about sling hide children. Similarly, there is a sling hide resource, which also does the same thing. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is how you can override a this is, we are overriding. We are overriding a component, and overriding is achieved by the parent-child relationship. And in the child, we have to provide sling resource super type, which tells where its parent is or who its parent is. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then virtually everything will be available inside the child component. Now, the second thing and the simple thing, that is overlay. We discussed about override. That was a complex thing where we established the parent-child relationship. Now it's the overlay. So overlay, what overlay in overlay like is that all the out-of-box AEM code is there inside the libs hierarchy. Now consider if you want to make some changes in some of the out-of-box behavior of AEM, like you have this home page, AEM start, and maybe consider that you want to add some link or something at the home page, like over here. So in that case, of course, we know the code would be sitting inside the libs hierarchy, because under the libs hierarchy is only where the Adobe code is placed. So here we will find out some HTML. Okay, this is the HTML, and then we have to update that HTML with the link and its image. Now we know that we cannot make the change directly inside the libs hierarchy, because that is against the rules of Adobe. So what you will do is you will overlay that file. So by overlay, it means that you will create the same structure of that file. Let's consider that this is my commas, this is my pom.xml. Okay. So below libs, I have the commas, and then this pom.xml. You wanted to make some changes over here, but of course you cannot make change inside the lib. So what you will do is you will create the same structure inside the app. So you will create the commas folder over here, and below that you will create the pom.xml, like the same structure. I have libs, commas, pom. So below the com, you have other folders that you do not need to worry about. You only have this pom.xml below the commas folder inside the apps hierarchy, and then make the changes inside the form.xml inside the apps hierarchy. So this is overlaying. When you overlay some file from libs to apps, that is overlaying. Okay, because we cannot
It's
make
not overloading, sorry, it's overlay, right?
overlaying. It's not
Okay.
overloading. Okay.
Okay.
This is,
So
but
it should be same as structure, right? Like,
yeah, it should be same in structure. So whatever is structure is there inside the libs, it should be same. Because I told you, whenever any file or whenever anything is accessed, the same file or same thing is firstly searched inside apps hierarchy and then inside the libs hierarchy. That is why we overlay it inside the apps with the same structure, so that while execution, if that file is searched, it will be firstly searched inside the apps. If it's found over there, then it will be rendered from there. If it's not found, then it will search inside the libs. Okay?
yeah.
This is over. Now, one disadvantage of overlaying is that if you overlay some file from libs to app is, in future, during upgradation of AEM, if that file is updated or some changes are made in that file, then those changes won't be reflected inside the file that you have overlaid inside the apps hierarchy. Okay, so that apps hierarchy, that file inside that app hierarchy will be a stale one. It will have the stale code because Adobe would have updated the code with the newer version, but you would still be using the stale version of that.
Okay.
What my point? So that is why it is not. It is like in extreme case, if you want to overlay some file from libs to apps, then only you do. In case better, you do not make any such customization.
Can I ask you something? Can you go to your page that you just created? Just want to show you that is this the same thing, or if you close that dialog and then click on that kind of like a nav bar at the top left. Yeah, the middle one.
Middle one, okay.
Yeah. So if say open properties, the first one, because we have this same situation. I think it's somehow like this. Sorry.
Sorry, your voice is speaking.
Is it okay now?
Yeah, it's
Okay. Like say for example, you see the tabs here, like basic, advanced, this. So if I want to add like another kind of tab at the top, so this one also will be the same case?
So it will be the overriding thing. Here, what you will do is you will use the sling resource super type thing. So by that way, so somewhere these all will be there inside the libs hierarchy, this dialog, or maybe wherever it is there, then what you will do is you will use the sling resource super type with the path of the component which has this dialog, this page dialog. Okay, like if I
didn't get. You mean like?
Okay, let me just show it to you. So here inside the apps, we have the core Wcm components, and here I have the pages. Here you would see I have the version. Okay, let me open this version 2. So here I have, what I have is, see, here this is the core components, page component. Like this is our page components dialog. In the same way, we have the page component here inside the core. And if you would see, it is inheriting from the libs Wcm. Like I know this path would be there inside the libs. And here, if I go over here, because it said sling resource super type.
So it's
here,
inherited.
yeah, it's inherited. So if I will go over here, basic page. So if I go over here, somewhere this dialog, yeah, the dialog is over here. The dialog here also you can see sling extra client list, and here it will have some properties. Here you can see all are over here. and these are getting inherited inside the core components, core stage component.
So here, as our example before, this is like adding a new field, right?
Yeah.
Inside.
See,
Okay.
you can see they added an extra tab,
Sure.
that is social media tab. That's what they added inside the core component.
So, okay, we can add like, for example, device setup tab, because this is the same case, yeah.
So like they use this linguist or super type, have that dialogue, and like they are getting, and they are just adding a new tab over here. So this is parent-child relationship, that is overriding.
And then, like say, if I add another tab, which is type of container, right? Tab is type of container, if I'm not mistaken. So I can add like different components, right? Different like fields, right?
Yes. See,
I can do that, right?
a component can have, like in I think same as we have in Java, a child can have, I think a child can have multiple parents in Java. Is it possible?
Yeah. No, it's not. It will
I
be
don't
defined.
think so.
Yeah.
A child in Java can only have one parent. In the same way, here in AEM as well, a child can have only one parent. So from that only parent, it can inherit whatever the fields are there, whatever the tab is there, everything will be inherited. If you want to make add an extra field in an existing tab, or if you want to add an altogether new tab, that all the things you can do.
Yes, correct. Yeah, got it. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And we discussed about overlaying as well. That is pretty simple. You just have the copy pasting of the same file
Yeah.
and the same structure, so that the first preference would be given inside the apps hierarchy and the file would be read from there first, if it's available over there. Otherwise, of course, it will then go inside the libs hierarchy.
So it will check first from the apps.
Yes. And I will show you also the later the configuration for that when we will discuss.
Okay. Just one thing, I'm not sure if you will come to this. I was also reading today about those things, the the installation, the package thing. Then it was telling something like some of the paths are like immutable and some of them like mutable.
Yeah.
So this is the one, right?
So I
Like
tell
say
you
libs,
that
it's
is
not, it's immutable.
yes, that is more often concept of cloud. On Adobe Cloud, what Adobe Cloud says is that there are some hierarchies which are mutable and some are immutable. By mutable, it means that it cannot be changed. Once the code has been deployed or once it has been deployed, it cannot be changed. And there are some hierarchies which are immutable. Sorry, are mutable. That is, it can be changed, and immutable, it means it cannot be changed. So what Adobe Cloud says is that apps and libs. So basically what this says is except of content, etc, conf and where hierarchy, every other hierarchy is immutable. That means it cannot be changed on fly. So if from code, if you think of writing some script that can make some change inside the apps hierarchy on fly, that is not possible. Your script will fail because apps hierarchy is immutable. It cannot be changed. Only content, conf, etc, and where hierarchies are the one which are immutable. Okay.
Content, etc, and what?
Yeah. And conf.
Okay. The rest are. And if say for these mutable package, I mean the path. So these things, if you want to write a script or something, this is all the OSGI configuration things, right?
No, these are altogether different things. Like OSJ configuration is different, mutable, immutable is a different concept.
No, I mean like if you want to write like a script or something like, or
Okay.
like say run something.
For what purpose, like you want to write a script?
Don't know how to explain it because I don't know the thing. Like say for example, to run some configuration when user, for example, access to any of the HTTP servlet or something like that. So those things.
So see, ultimately, if you write some script, that will be installed inside the apps hierarchy, and apps hierarchy is immutable. Now, I didn't get your question, but
Maybe, yeah, maybe when we go to the OSGI configuration, then yeah.
Okay. So you mean the OSGI configuration can be changed on runtime? So how does this becomes immutable? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So OSGI configuration are created from code and are stored below the apps hierarchy. But when we change them on runtime, they are not stored directly below the apps. So those can be changed at runtime, but their values, of course, can be changed at runtime. And those are like
They're not storing on the apps.
Sorry.
They won't store on their apps. They are on the only runtime.
We will discuss more on this. See, in Adobe Cloud, you cannot change the configurations even. So configurations cannot be changed on runtime. So even if you create the configurations, but you cannot change it on runtime because configurations are created inside apps, it's stored inside apps. Any change. So you cannot change the configurations at runtime. Okay. So on your on-prem server till 6.5, you can do this. You can change it, but not on cloud, Adobe Cloud.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
I hope this answered your question.
Yeah. I think it will be more clear when we go to that part, how to configure things.
Okay. So this covers or this completes our component things. Let's start with some on workflows. We will cover some of the things in workflows and let's see how much we can cover. So workflows is basically, when do we use workflows? It's basically step-by-step execution or performance or execution of some task. So if you have some set of defined uh, uh, steps defined for your task, then every time if you want to do those steps, instead of doing those each and every time, what you can do is you can create a workflow, and the workflow will help you in doing those tasks instead of doing those tasks or all those steps manually each and every time. Okay, let me give you an example that will help you better explain this. So consider you are an author, okay, who authors the content in your company. Your organization is a big organization which has some set of people or set of roles defined, and a particular person who belongs to a role can only perform that only role, and you are an author in that company. So your role is just to create the content. Okay, now you created the content. Now there is another person whose role is approver. So you as an author, you will create the content and then you will have to replicate that page. But you cannot directly replicate because your content has to be approved by the approver group of user. Okay. So the approver group has to approve the workflow, has to approve your content change, and once they approve it, then only that content or that page will be replicated. Okay, so you cannot directly replicate, but what you have to do is each and every time you make a change and you have to take it to live to publisher, you have to go to the approver, and then the approver will show you their tantrums. Oh, okay, we will check it sometime, and you will wait for them. They will check it. Maybe they can send you the response like, oh, it is not looking good, or if they find is all, if it's all okay, then they will replicate. So you see, your task is a whole lot dependent upon the approvers' work. The approvers will approve this. If they approve it, then you have to replicate the page. Sorry for that. So see, you have to do these set of steps each and every time. Each and every time you have to publish the page, you have to do these steps. So these steps can easily be achieved with the help of workflow without any manual intervention. You do not have to go to the approvers group of users or approver group to approve this, and this workflow will itself send the intimation to them, and it will become the responsibility of the approver group or approver user to approve the workflow. And once they approve it, it will automatically execute the next step. So the next step will be to replicate or to activate our page. So here, see how easy it will be that automatically when we edit or when we update a page, we will start the workflow which will do all these tasks for us. So that's what we will do over here. So when I go to the workflow, it shows me some of the links. We will discuss about each and every link by the time we will go. So first link, that is models. So if you have to create a new workflow, you have to go inside the models and create a new workflow over here. So if I go over here, so you can see there are a lot of out-of-box workflow already AEM provided. So these are all AEM provided out-of-box workflows. So if you wanted to create your workflow, just click on create model and name it. Like let me name it as sample workflow. Okay, so this is our sample workflow. Let me put an hyphen in it. Okay, so I named it as sample workflow and see how easy it is to at least create a workflow. Now you have created a workflow, but you have to define the steps that this workflow will execute by itself. In our case, the steps are that the request should be sent to an approver user or an approver group, and the second step will be if the approver group or approver user says that okay, all is good, then the page should get executed. So second step is replication of page. So there are two steps. So let's consider that that the sample user that we created, that is an approver user, or you can say an approver group. So if you remember from the security session that we did, we created a group and a user as well. So if you remember the user or the group, what was the name of the user? I think it was sample. Yeah. So sample, and we also created a system user, but system user does not have any credentials. So sample is the user that we created. Okay. So here we assume that sample user is an approver user. Okay. So here, okay. So let me delete this because this out of box steps by default comes into action when we create any workflow. So here we have the workflow start and workflow end, and between that we will add all the steps that we need as part of this workflow. So our workflow needs two steps. First is to get it approved by the approver user or approver group, and second is to replicate this thing. Now, the first step, firstly implement the first step and then we'll implement second step. The first step is that we need to get it approved by the approver user or approver group. So here, these are the steps, or basically you can say the dialogues, or these are called as steps. So here you can see it is go to and all the like or split and split, all these are the by default steps. In workflow, any complex workflow you have, there would be any very minor chance that you would be needing any customization in that, because by default Adobe provide all the necessary steps. So you can say the dialogues. So these are also, sorry, not dialogues, these are also components within it. So here, now our thing is where we need to send the request to the approver to approve or to check the work page that we have sent for further activation. So here, if you would see that there is a participant steps. So what participant steps does is, it sends, basically it does the same that we wanted. It sends the request to the user. So here, if I added this, either a user or a group. So here, if you select this user and group, I can say notify user by email. So I will tell you how it will get notified. And let me add the sample. Yeah, either you can add the sample group or sample, the whole group or the user. So let me add the whole group. Okay. So which all users that who belong to this group, all will get notified, and any one of them can take action, further action on it. So let me just say done. So here, pretty simple, my first step is done. So this step, participant step, actually helps us in sending the request to a group of user or a user. And the next step is the replication. If I will select replicate, yeah, you can say reverse replicate, activate. Yeah, you can say there is already a step that is by default defined, which is internally replicating our page or asset or deactivating. That is, if you want to deactivate. Let me just select this. Pretty simple. Our workflow will start. It will send a request to the participant. Further, depending upon the action of the participants, whether they step back or whether they approve or see, there can be three scenarios. So we selected a group. So a group can have multiple members. So here, either any of the user in that group can say step back, means okay, the things doesn't look good. Now the author or whosoever will start this workflow will have to again redo the work. If it says the second is that okay, approve, then the second step will be executed, that is activate page. And there can be another scenario where, since there are multiple users, if there are multiple users in that group and all will get intimated and one of them will be taking action, now one of the person may say that okay, oh, I am not available, so I delegate this task to some other person. So delegation can also be done inside a workflow when a request is being sent to a group. So if that group has multiple users, one of the user or any number of users can delegate the request or delegate this task to other. Okay, so this is a simple step. I will show you all those three things. So this simple workflow has been created, but we need to sync our workflow. So I will sync this workflow, and here you can see workflow runtime model successfully written. So here by syncing, the workflow gets successfully created. So here our workflow is created. Let me just go back to my AEM start. And if I go back to my sites, and if I go to my sample project, EUS, this, and test page. Let's say if you want to start a workflow over here, what you can do is you can select this and we're getting the workflow. Yeah, just select this and click on create, and here you can select the workflow. Now on this page, if you want to start a workflow, that okay, you say that okay, I'm an author and I'm done with my work. Now I want all those tasks to be done, but I have a workflow for that. So I will start the workflow and workflow will do all the steps on my behalf. So I will start the workflow and select the necessary workflow which I need to be executed on this page. So I will select the workflow model. So the workflow model, what was the name of yours? It was sample minus WS. Okay, you can give any workflow name like sample, my sample workflow, my sample page workflow, okay, and say next. Okay, and scope, what is this? Create workflow title, okay. Include children. So here it says whether you want to include, whether you want to include it for all the other children and just for this, because there is no other children. And let's create the workflow. So here, if I go inside this page, so there are multiple ways in which you can start the workflow. We started the workflow on this page, but you can even go inside this page. So here you can see you are also getting this pop-up. The project is subject to workflow with the name of the workflow. So here you can see either you can complete, then if you will complete this. So see, since I am an admin user, that is why I'm getting this option. Otherwise, it's only the user who belongs to that sample group will be able to complete or will be able to do the things. But except the sample user or sample or the user who belongs to the sample group, it's only the admin who can do each and all the things. Now I can either as a sample, I will log in as a sample also, then also I will show it to you. So here I can either complete or either I can delegate as well. If I click on delegate, you will see, oh, hey, it's only sample user who belongs to this group. So that is why it cannot be delegated. Maybe I can try adding a new user to this group. Let's try doing it now. And let's see if this thing works or not. In the security, I have group. And inside the sample group, let me try adding a new user. Let's firstly search our sample group. Okay, so this is our sample. Unfortunately, we as of now we just had one member. Let's see if I have some other member. Let me see if any test member. Okay, it's not there. Let me search by any. Give me any. Okay, let me add this Willy. Okay, Willy. I added this, and that's it. I have two members now. If I go again to my page, yeah, here is my page. Still, it is under workflow. If I click on delegate, here you can see either you can delegate the task. Since I am an admin, I can further delegate to any one of them. Okay. I can complete this. I am an admin, I can do anything, but I will show you. I will log out as an admin and log in as a sample user, and then I will show you. I would still be able to do those things. Okay, here I am on the page and I'm getting this pop-up. I started the workflow. Also, I can start the workflow mode here by going inside the page. Also, I can start the workflow. So there are multiple ways. So they are basically like you can start it through the side panel. So this was the side panel which we earlier saw. So from there we started. Either you can click these three dots and from here you can start it. And also you can start it from here where we created our workflow. So the place where we created our workflow, from there also we can start the workflow, and then we have to select the page or the like page or the path on which you want to select the workflow. So here we have the workflow, and here you can start the workflow again, and then you have to provide the payload. Payload is basically the path on which you want to start the workflow. Okay. So our workflow is already over here. And if you want to see the details, okay, let me just log out from here and log in as the sample user. Now I exactly don't remember the sample user's credential, but let me try. It was the sample. No, it's not working. Okay. Oh, it's not working. Okay, but if it's not working, let me just do it with admin only. Okay.
So you'll be able to do all the things with that sample also because you assign those things to the workflow, right?
Yes. So with the workflow, since here our workflow says that the request will go to the participant user, and who all are the participant user? All the users who belong to the sample group.
The sample.
Of course, the sample group would have received the notification. How would they have received the notification is, like, let me just show it to you with the help of admin user only. So here, if I go to my home, uh, here you have this bell icon. So this is the inbox, AEM inbox. So if you click over here, you can see all the inbox, and here also you can see that I received an participant notification. So here the approver group, that is a sample user, will check and it sees that okay, there is something on my plate. What it is, either you can step back, you can say that okay, things doesn't look good. Step back means again the things will go on you as an author and you have to redo the work. Or you can delegate it. Delegate means we just saw, either you can delegate it to Willy or sample, or you can complete this. By completing it, it means the next thing will be executed, that is activate page. And here, or you can open and see, okay, now you are the approver. Of course, you would have to see what changes or which exactly is the page where the changes has been done. So you will click on open. And here you can go to the page where the changes have been made. So here it gives you the details that okay, this is the page path and all the details and the start date, each and everything like workflow, all the things regarding workflow and all, and also some comments. If you have inputted some comments, so those also will come over here. So I, as an approver, like sample as an approver, if sample user as an approver group, so the approver user, if he found that okay, all the things look good, let me just complete this. And here you can see it will say the next step will be executed, that is activate page. And that's it. So by default, since this is the only next step, so that is why it will only be executed. Okay. Before activating this, let me just show you few more things. Initiating the next step. I am saying that okay, all the things are good, and let me complete this. Okay. So before completing, let me just show you few more things. In this workflow, you have the models where you created the workflows. Similar way, you have the instances, archive, and failure. Instances tab or instances link shows you all the currently running workflows, or all the actively running workflows are being shown over here. And once the workflow is being completed, the details from here moves to either of these two folders. Depending upon if it's a success, then it will go to the archive. If it's a workflow, is a failed workflow, some backend error occurred or some error occurred. It doesn't mean that okay, if you step back or if you delegate it, then it's a failure. It's not. By failure, it means workflow somehow failed because of some logic failure. So if that thing occurs, then the record will go inside this folder. All the running workflow, like currently our workflow is in the running state. So it will be inside the instances. So if I go inside the instances, our sample workflow should be in the running state. Here you can see it is the running state. But the time I will complete this, it will get removed from here and it will move to the archive folder. So this is the archive folder. So as of now, if you see, the archive folder is empty. Let me just complete this workflow. Let's say, okay, I said the page should get activated. Okay, now my bucket is cleared by that item, and inside the archive, you should see that entry. Yeah, you can see the status has been completed, initiator by admin, all the things is what you can see. Even you can see the history of what all things happened and all the things. So if any workflow history you want to check, depending upon that workflow is a success or workflow is a fail, that you can go inside the archive folder or you can go inside the failure folder. And here inside the instances, it shows the currently running. So as of now, there is no currently running, so it should be cleared. Okay.
Yeah.
Now our workflow is completed, and our workflow next step was to activate the page. But here, just to tell you that my page should have been activated, but unfortunately, my publisher instance is not up and running. So it means our queue should be blocked. So if I go over here, if I go to deployments, replication, and agents on author, our queue should be blocked. Yes, our queue is blocked. That means our workflow worked well. Yes. And you can see the user, since the request came from the workflow. So there is a step like a different user which actually executed behind the scene. This particular user is working behind the scene to make our steps possible, or execute our steps. So let me just clear because it will slow down my system. So that is why I cleared.
Okay.
Okay. So I created my workflow over here, a pretty simple workflow. I will tell you more about some different steps. So I created my workflow over here. Sorry, let me just go back. Yeah. Workflow models are being created over here. If you can easily create a new workflow model, and you can add any number of steps within it. All the currently running workflow can be seen over here. All the successfully completed workflow from instances will move inside the archive. All the failed workflow will move from instances inside the failure. Okay, I will discuss about launches, but firstly, let's see more into the models, a bit more. So I have the sample. We created a pretty simple and very useful model, a sample, which is actually used in all the companies, because all the companies has a role defined for each and every employee or each and every user of that, like you can say, of that company or that product. So you are an author, so you need to send the request. So here we have a lot of other steps like add split. What it does is, like if you use the add split, what it will do is it will create branches. So here you can see it create branches. So here both the steps, like parallelly steps, will be executed. So here all the steps will be executed at the same time. And also in the add split, you can say how many branches do you want. So here if you add the branches, you can add it over here. Okay, so any number of branches that you want, in the same way it will be executed. In the same way, if you can use an or split as well. So either of these branch will be executed. So here, if I use this or split, it will ask us to write some code or write some script on the basis of which it will be decided which branch should be executed. So if I open this, here you can say branch one and select routing expression. So here you can say that, okay, external script or rule definition. So here you can set some rule where here you can define some rule. Okay, let me just go back. I did some quickly. So either you can use some external script or ICMA script or rule definition, which defines that, okay, branch one should be executed when this rule should satisfy. Like if I click over here, so it will say drop some object or something like if this rule will be satisfied, then only this branch steps will be executed and in the next also, if this branch will be executed, if like some external script, then you can provide some external use script or ICMA script that will return true. Basically, it has to return true or false, and depending upon that branch will be executed. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, you were saying something.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the same way, we have a lot of other steps as well. So by the time, so here we have a go to step. So in case if from a step, if you want to directly go to bypass some steps in the middle and directly go to some other step, that you can use over here. So here you have to write again some logic. So target step you want to go to, either it can be participant or activate, because in our case we just have these two steps. And routing expression, like you have to write some script. If the script return true, then only it will directly go to this target step. If it return false, then it will not go ahead. It will follow the current route. So basically, there are a lot of steps, and by the time you get to work on this, you will get to know. Like, okay. One important thing over here, the last important thing which I wanted to tell you. See, all these steps basically helps you perform all the work that you wanted to do. Create anything or everything. But consider a situation that as a part of workflow, whenever you start a workflow on a page, consider that you want to add some node on a page or node on a path where that workflow is started, or you wanted to do some work for which you have to write some code. Like through that code only that task can be executed. Because see, through all these steps that are out of box, you cannot write some logic, your custom logic. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you want to write your custom logic, a step is provided, this step is provided, which helps you write your custom logic. So that step is called as process step. So with the process step, you can write your custom logic. So here in this, you can select either your ECMAScript or your Java file. So these are all the Java files somewhere written behind the scene. Those are in the background. They are doing some work, and when this process step will be executed and you selected this, so behind the scene, this Java code will be executed, which is for now by default, and you can even write your custom Java code also, which will start appearing in this drop down, and that particular Java file will be executed.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you aware of this process steps?
Yeah, actually, like right now we have something called Excel workflow. It basically, when we upload an Excel file to the DAM folder, then we run that workflow, and then there is a code at the backend thing that it reads the workflow, reads the Excel, and then create like page notes in the CRX. Yeah, so it basically like transform the Excel to the CRX notes, like pages.
And for that, we'll be using this process step.
Yeah, so it's actually the Java code. It needs to be added to the libs path, or
no. Simple Java code. I will give you the link for that. One of the example, I'm not going to write the whole code, because code you can get it from anywhere.
Yeah.
So it's the code that you write, and by default it will start appearing over here. And code is like simple inside the core module of our Java.
Okay.
That code will automatically start appearing in this drop down.
Oh, okay, automatically.
Okay, let me just show you. Let me give you an example. So what you can search is process step example code in AEM. Simple.
Okay.
Implemented custom process step, all these things you can see. And now here you will get some code. Here you can see this is some code. You have to provide this process.label. So see here, this is the code complete. Some Java file code has been given. And you have to again use @component. If you remember this @component, we need to create service.
Services.
Yeah. So here this is also a service, but you need to provide this property process.label. This process.label property needs to be there. It doesn't matter if you provide these two properties, but this property needs to be there. And by using this property only, this value will start appearing in this.
In the drop down itself.
And Exactly. In
So
this one,
it's accessing the dialog box, right? From backend.
yes.
Okay.
By default, that drop down may have some data source. So
Mm-hmm.
that drop down may be using some data source and maybe reading in the code which all workflow process step you have written by using this, because
Mm-hmm.
all the process steps should implement the workflow process
Process.
and
Oh,
they
okay.
should have an execute method.
Oh, okay. This is the overriding. Just one more question. So, in this part also, I noticed that, like say for writing anything inside CRX, like a note, for example, so it used some kind of like service user, like there is a user that we define as a, for example, data or something at some name. So it's somehow in the code, it's calling that user. Like,
Yes, yes,
oh, okay, this is supposed to be like that, right? Because I was reading and then they were telling
yes.
before it was not any differentiate between system user and like the other service user, but
So
now they
see, system and service user are both the same.
oh yeah, like a normal user and yeah
No,
service.
I don't know. Okay. See, normal, do you mean by normal user or system user? That's what you mean.
Um, yeah, because you see this one. Let me.
Okay. So yeah, you are right. You are right. It's just the naming convention. So service user are the one which are used in the code base to perform the write or modification operation. And
Mhm.
system user are the normal user which through which we log in and log out
Yeah,
all.
yeah, exactly. Yep. I was.
So system user you cannot use inside the code. So service and system is like they both have a different purpose. So service user you cannot use so service user you cannot log in into the system, and to system user you cannot use inside the code to perform modification and read operation like read write
Yeah,
operation. So yeah.
yes, yeah, correct. Okay, so that's yeah. I realized that I'm not sure if this has, but uh, yeah, I will check that the link. Yeah.
Okay, so one last thing for today. Inside the workflow, we discuss all these four. We are just left with this launcher. So, as you said, in your current scenario, in your current company, what they are doing is that whenever that Excel get uploaded, then they have to go and manually start this workflow on that Excel. But what if we can define some process that this workflow should get automatically executed when that Excel gets uploaded on that inside that path? So workflow launchers can help us to automate the execution of a workflow when some event occur inside AEM. So if I go inside this launchers, here I can create a launcher and I can say add launcher, and here I can say what type of event occurred when you want the workflow to be executed. So created, because in our case it should be created or modified. So let's say if it is modified, and what is the node type. So you need to define the node type of your Excel. I think it should be of NT unstructure or maybe CQ, whatever it is. So you have to define like if it is like any node type, that also you can define if it's of a particular node type like NT unstructure or NT base or NT file if it's a simple file, NT file, and then you can define the path where that file will be placed. So if that any file of type NT file is modified below this path and only on author instance, because our case is only on author instance, because the nodes need to be created on author instance, and then we can further replicate those nodes because that's the best process. Or you can also run it on author and publisher depending upon your requirement. And here you can say conditions that okay, under this condition you should not occur. And further you can say the workflow that you want to execute. So like if you want to execute our workflow, sample workflow, that also you can do. and you can say execute. And if you want that below this path, if you want to exclude some of the path, so exclude list you can want to provide, that also you can do. But this way, your workflow launcher would be created, like let me say apps inside the home hierarchy, and then only you can say create button got enabled. Before that, it was not enabled. So if I remove this, it will be disabled. So if I added, I said that okay, below the content dam path, content dam sample, if your Excel is uploaded whose type is this, and it should only this event modification operation only occurs on author, then execute your workflow. And just I will create this, and then you do not need to worry about when that Excel will be uploaded, and then you have to manually go and trigger this workflow. It will automatically get triggered. Okay. This is workflow launcher. So, like we have event handlers, in the same way, the same thing is what is achieved with the help of workflow launchers. But sometimes it is being asked, which would you prefer using, whether an event handler or whether you should use workflow launcher. Workflow launcher should be used very carefully because workflows are very heavy process. Pretty heavy because in a workflow, multiple steps are executed. And so that is why if you are using workflow launcher, use it very carefully. If the workflows are getting triggered without your knowledge, just because of the launcher that you have configured, that it can consume a lot of AEM space and can even corrupt your AEM system. So use it carefully. That's what Adobe says.
Okay.
Okay, if you can achieve the same thing with event handlers or event listeners, very well, go ahead with that. Otherwise, okay, means if you have written a workflow and that you have to automatically trigger, that cannot be achieved with the help of a event handler. So that you have to use an workflow launcher only.
Okay.